Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing a pen review and I couldn't believe I hadn't reviewed this pen. It's a pen I've had in my collection for ages. It's been on my list to review for quite a while, and it's by Christoph, and it is the Model 2 Intrinsic, and this is the black and sweet maroon version. So the entire pen body is black, and then you get this sort of maroon sort of acrylic on the finial there. So I'm going to talk about the parts and features. I'll do writing sample, pros and cons, all that kind of stuff. Starting at the top of the pen, as you would have seen, there's the Christoph calligraphy or style F there with the 4 diamonds, which is their logo. You then get a lovely sort of beveled corner, and then the cap continues down to this beveled end of the cap here. Now it's all one piece of acrylic, well, apart after the maroon, the all black is one piece. The clip is cut in and it's functional. It also has the 4 arrows lasered on there. Around the body of the pen, we get Christoph 02, so the model number, which is great. Then the body continues along and then tapers a lot and then continues along at a more narrow width, a little beveled end, and then a flat end on the pen. Now it is a screw cap and it comes off in one turn, which is great. And two of the features that become instantly visible are firstly the fact that this pen posts very deeply because of that large taper and drop down there, which makes it for a very nice deep posting of the pen. The other feature you'll see is that the threads, or the block threads, are right up here at the end of the section, meaning that when that is screwed down, firstly, you don't have threads to navigate on the grip of the pen, but also it makes the compartment for the air around the nib smaller, and therefore allows the pen to stay wet longer, which is a really, really lovely feature. So there is a tiny little step down off the barrel onto the section, and then that continues along, and then we get this interesting sort of almost bottled neck, almost hourglass shaped section. It's unique, and it's okay. It's not my favorite section. I find myself drifting towards the end and then starting to really feel those threads, but you can hold it further back if that is a problem for you, but I think where your hands tend to sit naturally is a little narrower and also dips down slightly onto those threads. It's a standard international cartridge converter pen. It comes with a Schmidt style converter. But what's interesting about this pen is because this is all one piece of acrylic, you can eyedropper this pen. So I would suggest putting silicone grease on the threads, and if there's space for an O-ring, you might be able to squeeze an O-ring on the end there, and that will hold 3.8 milliliters of ink. So a really lovely ink capacity if you want to eyedropper this pen. Otherwise, standard international cartridge and converter. Now, Christoph is an American-based company, and their pens are made in the US from a really good quality acrylic resin. Their colors are not the most out there, but their designs are really interesting. And the nice accent of the color on the top. There are versions of this with that, that sort of a frosted glass kind of look with a black section and things like that. But this is a very nice, very clean pen, and it's one I've enjoyed a lot over the years. Time for a size comparison. I put it alongside the standard Lamy Safari here. You can see it's a few millimeters longer there than the Lamy Safari. Unposted, still slightly longer, but of course with a number 6 size nib there. And the nibs are made by Jovo, but they are tuned in-house by Christoph. This is just a standard medium nib, none of their fancy grinds or anything like that, but it's a beautiful nib. But because it's got that slightly longer nib, when you put end of section to end of section, longer nib of course, and slightly shorter than the Safari. And then once we get to the posted length, the Lamy Safari is much longer. The Christoph does post very, very deeply, making it a lovely size in the hand and well balanced, but much shorter here. So yeah, it's a pen that can equally be used posted or unposted very comfortably. So what are the dimensions of the Christoph Model 2 Intrinsic? Well, it's 144 millimeters when it is capped. It's 131 when it's uncapped, so it's a nice size, good size in the hand. And then posted, it comes into 147, so only 3 millimeters longer than the capped length. So it's a nice size. As I said, it posts very deeply. It gets the cap out of the way of rubbing on your hand and keeps the balance really nice. Now, it is a lightweight pen. It's 20 grams in all, 12 in the body and 8 in the cap. But because it does post deep, you definitely do not feel the weight of the cap on the end. In terms of dimensions, we've got 11 millimeters in the middle of the section there. We've got about 13 around the widest point of the body, and then the widest point of the cap is 16 millimeters. So it does have a sort of a strong taper down across the length of the pen. Time for a writing sample now with the Franklin Christoph. I'll just put model 2 there. This is a steel medium nib, and as I said, the nib is made by Yovo, and it's a number 6 size nib. So there are a huge range of nibs available on these pens through Franklin Christoph, but you can also buy the nibs separately if you wanted to change it on your pen, or because it is just a standard number 6 Yovo, you can swap it out with a nib from another brand if you so desire. The ink in this today is Ackerman number 18 Garuda Rude, which is a wonderful ink. I am in love with this ink. Let's do a writing sample. So you can see this pen writes really beautifully. It's not the wettest pen, but it is certainly wet enough. Reverse writing, very, very fine, but quite remarkably doable. It is not a flex nib, it is just a standard Yovo steel nib. If you take it slowly, you can get a tiny bit of line variation, but it's not really its thing. Fast writing. Not an issue in any way. This pen writes beautifully, consistently, evenly. No ink starvation, no hard starts, nothing like that. They know what they're doing at Franklin Christoph, and they don't let a pen go through that isn't perfect. It's very rare to hear of people having problems with Franklin Christoph pens. I originally had this pen with a stub nib, but I don't like stub nibs. They don't work for my hand. I use them occasionally for specific purposes, but for everyday writing, which this pen is great for because its form and function sort of caters for that. For me, the medium nib is the way to go. I've also Franklin Christophs with fine nibs and broad nibs, and really, they do a wonderful, wonderful job. So what are the pros and cons? Well, firstly, the cons are very, very few and far between for this pen. Yes, it could probably post a little more securely. I feel that because it is just it is a plastic, let's be honest. Just sitting there, pushing that on too hard, I would be scared of cracking over time. So just placing it lightly on there, it can sometimes feel a little bit less secure, but that's a minor thing for me to pick on. My biggest issue is with these threads on the end, and that is for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it is an ink trap. If you fill through the bottle, you do get ink in these blocky threads. Because they are blockier threads, it is easy to clean it off. You just have to be, conscious of doing that. But my biggest issue is that by the nature of this section, which sort of has a very sort of strong taper to that point there, that pinchy point, I start to feel the threads under my fingers. And so they're not the most comfortable, particularly on the underside. And because you are pushed down the nib, you are sort of pinching at that point. So it's not the most comfortable. Like for short writing sessions, it's okay, but I don't generally use this for super long writing sessions if I have something else inked. In between the pros and cons here, let's talk about the price. Currently retails for $175 US, which is around the $269 Australian, which is kind of like, like the standard kind of price for turned acrylic or resin pens from makers of this kind of scale. I'm thinking things like, Franklin Christoph and Edison and those kinds of brands. For a standard steel nib cartridge converter, that $175 price is pretty well standard. Now, they do have a great range of pens at different price points and things, so check out their website if this particular one doesn't do it for you, but they are in the middle of that price point, perhaps on the slight high price point for what they are. As I said, standard cartridge converter, steel nib, that kind of stuff. But they are beautifully made and really interesting pens. So what are the pros? Well, the first is that nib. It writes very well, but as I said, they are interchangeable with other Yovo nibs and nib sections and stuff. So I wouldn't be too worried if you don't like the one you have. You can easily find another. But this one writes beautifully, so I don't have to worry. As I said, I originally had a stub nib, and I changed it out here to the medium, and I'm very, very happy. I like the design of the pen. I think it looks nice. It's got an interesting look. I love this top finial section. I'm not a huge fan of the clip, I'll say that. Like, that doesn't look great to me. But this top finial here with the beveled edge and the logo on the top in that accent acrylic, love that. It's like a textured acrylic as well. Like, you can see there's like the little waves of slightly lighter material through it, which is beautiful. You know, that I don't love that taper down, but you know, it serves a good purpose and it gives an interesting profile to the pen. But what I love that allows is that deep posting. The deep posting and then the balance of this pen are perfect. I love this size of posted pen in my hand, and this is absolutely no exception. It writes well, it feels nice. So yeah, it's a pen I really do enjoy quite a lot. So thank you for watching today's video on the Franklin Christoph Model 2. I hope you found it interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you would like to support the channel, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.